Hello, I'm announcing the launch of my new website, JanaEsp.com, which will give you the context for my philosophy videos centered around natural law information. To learn more about natural law, go to whatonearthishappening.com with Mark Passio. While future projects will involve my own artwork, this video will feature other artists who inspire me. Special thanks to my sovereign sister. I will be reading an article for my site to summarize natural law titled Consciousness in Natural Law versus Spiritual Darkness and Political Power. While at the highest conceptual level, natural law principles are the eternal universal forms: love, truth, goodness, beauty. In manifestation, they are dynamic and living as the intelligent non-man-made laws that govern the universe. Mathematically precise, they interact with consciousness to set the boundary conditions for our creative evolution in the dualistic universe. One of its principles is that the level of freedom and goodness in the world is in direct proportion to our level of individual consciousness and morality in the aggregate. Higher consciousness means greater capacity for morality in obtaining moral knowledge. The external world manifests in relation to human consciousness through the polarity of positive and negative expressions, from generation to manifestation of good or evil. The generative or beginning polarity of natural law expressions is love and fear. When we come from love, recognizing the divine aspect of our true spirit, our consciousness expands to gain truth and knowledge about ourselves, the microcosm, and the world, the macrocosm. At its basic level, self-knowledge is the understanding that we are triune sovereign beings made of thoughts, mind, emotions, spirit, and actions. Embodiment, which also corresponds to masculine and feminine, solar and lunar principles, and its trine integrative point. Self-knowledge unifies with world knowledge in understanding how these aspects of our consciousness create the world, in direct relation to our ability to perceive spiritual laws and our level of consciousness to embody them. In their higher expression, our thoughts seek objective knowledge with grounded metaphysical principles and reason, from eternal truths to the facts of our daily lives. A good mind seeks freedom from cultural falsehoods, indoctrination, and egoic subjective bias. Our feelings care for what is universally good, true, and beautiful, and indicate the quality of motive behind the mind. A pure spirit develops authenticity, sincerity, and self-honesty, inner truth, for purification, cleansing, to dissolve the evil within through love, true care for self. Care in its proper form is heart-centered and has empathy for others beyond our personal needs and selfish desires. Action in its higher expression do not initiate violence against others, including following orders under man's law. No matter our beliefs, we cannot abdicate our moral responsibility to a cult, the state, and should not take actions from obedience to authority, spiritual blindness, but accountability to moral conscience, awareness of good and evil, right and wrong. Good actions have the courage to do what is right and speak truth, the great work, as well as defend oneself and others from harm, which is the use of force to stop violence. Good actions regard the art of practical living, wisdom, in learning what to do and what not to do, as to align with the higher will. The senses are attuned to perceive relevant data to the moral realities of our lives as to be self-correcting and transforming through objective feedback of error. In higher consciousness, we unify thoughts, emotions, and actions to be whole and divided individuals. Unity consciousness, understanding that we are accountable to laws higher than our own subjective interpretations. We say what we feel and do as to not live in contradiction, resolving inner conflict with knowledge and change, balancing not only the analytic and holistic sides of the mind, but also the mind and heart. As an evolving process, we strive to be in better alignment to natural law through moral accountability. As a result, greater freedom, order, and goodness manifest, providing us with higher and wider levels of fulfillment in being and consciousness and creative expression. Contrarily, when we come from fear, we contract into unconsciousness as to reject, ignore, deny, and escape truth and morality. Because we are ignorant to the causal factors of our suffering, with rationalization, selective blindness, we cannot see how our consciousness is responsible for our negative life conditions. Thoughts in their lower expression are based in flawed axioms, like solipsism, sophistry, and relativism, the dark masculine, that seek ego validation and to remain in cultural conditioning, indoctrination, mind control. This is to prevent cognitive dissonance and maintain the status quo of corruption for the false self. The lower mind identifies to false belief systems and the illusion of political authority and laws that are not based in nature, feeding an immoral system. In its lower vibration, our emotions range from being apathetic and empty of love and deeper meaning, to selfish care about me, narcissism, the dark feminine, limited to self-preservation and self-serving agendas, money and status that support the inauthentic self. In desiring comfort and security, the lower emotions replace the true life force with stagnation that leads one to material shallowness and self-loathing, as to reject development in our higher nature. Dissociated from divinity, the quality of our spirit can be destructive, manipulative, controlling, and mean. Actions in their lower expression are immoral and selfish, and can either violate another person's rights, the initiation of violence and harm, individually or collectively through order following of the state, as to commit murder and theft in war and taxation. Immoral actions turn a blind eye to evil, maintaining the victim-perpetrator cycle through cowardice. In lower fear-based consciousness, we lack self-knowledge and are inwardly divided and thus confused, so that there is contradiction between our thoughts, emotions, and actions. This chaos from within leads us to seek control from without, creating imbalanced relationships of controller and controlled, depriving us of true intimacy with feelings of oppression and being trapped. At the macrocosmic level, this manifests as the master-slave dominator hierarchy of gender imbalance, the blueprint of all of our social systems. At the top level, the dark priest class that run the control system manipulate human consciousness to work in opposition to natural law, as well as mimic triune consciousness with dark and false versions of thoughts, emotions, and actions. The dark masculine mind uses false religion and false law or government to replace metaphysics, reason, and natural law, while the dark feminine emotions uses money to replace the real currency in the harmonious symbiosis of give and receive. The monetary system replaces the giver of nature with fictitious numbers of control, turning abundance into scarcity in the fight for survival. Together, the dark masculine and the dark feminine are in force with the monopoly on violence, the military and police using fear and control with violence and coercion. Political power is the external global manifestation of individual interior disorder in the aggregate. It is based on our ignorance of consciousness and natural law, which has today become slavery under global tyranny, run by psychopathic and predatory rulers. They have socially engineered an artificial system that profits off of human suffering to replace the natural system of Mother Earth. A ruling class of any sort is antithesis to natural law, even if some of man's laws are synonymous with natural laws, like theft and murder. This is because the premise that man created these laws and that they do not exist in nature will only support the increase of external dominance, control, and power over others. While this can start out small, as with limited government, its foundational premise is like a cancer cell that will only grow by creating more and more artificial laws that condemn freedom. And this reveals how man's law ultimately contradicts natural law, bringing total social dysfunction with war, extreme poverty, forced dependency and slavery, economic collapse, and the police state. Humanity can evolve out of these political cycles and dead-end revolutions as to exit the matrix entirely through the awakening of true care and care for truth, to gain the knowledge of consciousness and natural laws, and to transmute fear into love. When we can recognize that the system is an immoral manifestation due to our fear, ignorance, and apathy, opposed to the values of love and freedom, we can stop giving it power over our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Because the false system is empowered through our false beliefs, it can be disempowered by our knowledge of the real system of nature and the power of individual sovereignty in the exercise of right action. In order to manifest goodness, truth, and beauty, we must become self-governing beings, knowing the objective difference between right and wrong, knowing what a right is. We have been given the ability to reason in the spirit of goodness, to live and act morally, so that we can create the world of our infinite dreams, as to live in a state of freedom, joy, and bliss. But first, we must seek the forbidden knowledge that the control system has obfuscated with false education and political propaganda. For spiritual growth, knowledge is required.